Welcome to her comeback. I'm so glad you're back with me. This is where 50 isn't your finish line. It is your starting point, the starting point of everything you want your life to be, the person that you are meant to be. I'm your host, Michelle Thompson, and we are proving that your best chapter may just be the one you haven't written yet. We'll continue each episode featuring honest conversation with women who have stopped going at it alone and have found their way to fulfillment, joy, and purpose in their second act. You'll hear about their struggles, their breakthroughs, and the practical steps that they took to create lives that they actually love. This podcast will show you how other women have made their comeback and how you can too. Welcome back. Hi, good day, everyone. I am so happy to have with us today Lisa Panos. She is the author of Big Girl Pants, and she also is a relationship advisor who's been helping individuals and couples navigate meaningful change for over 12 years. She's trained through the Martha Beck Institute, and Martha Beck is Oprah Winfrey's life coach, and the Gottman Institute. And they are known worldwide for its research-based approach to relationships. What makes her work different is that she doesn't just teach tools, she helps people understand themselves. Her work is rooted in emotional awareness, personal responsibility, and the belief that change begins when we stop blaming others and start listening to our big, scary feelings. She specializes in working with people in midlife, often in second marriages, blended families, or long-term partnerships, under pressure from stress, transitions, or change, who want things that lasting change, not just a quick fix. So please join me in welcoming Lisa. Lisa, I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is fun.
Yes, I had the pleasure of meeting you at a networking event with other women, and we've just gotten to know each other better since then. And you're just an amazing person. So thank you for
Aw,
being here.
likewise. Thank you.
Well, I have a few questions that we'll get started with, and feel free to let the conversation go where it does. We talked through some different areas. So take us back to third grade. What happened when you first became aware of yourself and how you showed up in relationships?
That's a great question. So, in third grade, my parents didn't think I was doing well. I was in a public school. My parents didn't think I was doing well. I was really shy. I wouldn't talk, and they were worried I was kind of getting lost with all the big classrooms, right, with all the people in it. So, they pulled me out. They stuck me in a private school in hopes that I would flourish. So, when I went to the private school, I had to be held back in third grade because I wasn't keeping up with the curriculum of the third graders. So I was held back in third grade. And I think right then I started to internalize I'm not smart enough. Right. And it was just my first thought of awareness of myself, like something's wrong with me. I'm not smart enough. So this whole journey I look back on that began then. My first belief of myself was, geez, I'm not as good as the other kids.
So, how did that continue, that feeling of less than or not good enough, like early on, shape the way you related to other people just as you grew up?
Yeah. Well, I had that belief, right? I'm not good enough. And I couldn't read quickly enough in the classrooms. I couldn't keep up with the other girls. My grades weren't as good. And I started feeling jealous, insecure. I had all those big, scary feelings we talk about. And by the time I was in seventh grade, I didn't know what to do with those feelings. So I became a mean girl and I bullied the other girls to make myself feel better because I didn't know what else to do with those emotions. So back then, I, we weren't taught to deal with your emotions or your thoughts or your beliefs. And so I started just becoming the mean girl and got suspended from seventh grade for being mean.
Oh, wow. See, that
Bad.
seems crazy to me because you are the complete opposite of a mean girl.
Now I am. Thank you, God.
So hard to see that. Wow. What do you understand now about that version of yourself when you say that you were a mean girl? How do you understand that now?
Well, I now I understand it as I didn't know what to do with my thoughts, right? I didn't know what to do with them. And over the years and in time, through growth and getting to midlife, I've had to sit with these emotions and realize, what they mean. I think I understand that as just not knowing what to do with my emotions. I didn't know how to respond to the things I felt inside, and they were big, scary feelings. And nobody's going to say out loud, "I feel insecure. I feel jealous. I feel less than." We don't know how to do that. So now, as all in all my relationships, I can pause and say, "What am I feeling right now? Am I feeling suffocated? Am I feeling, how am I feeling?" And so I can kind of navigate my relationships a lot easier by understanding myself better and the feelings I have within each relationship.
Are there other emotional patterns that started showing up and repeating? I think you were kind of alluding to that there, but are there other things that you
Well,
saw? Yeah.
absolutely. So growing up, I lived in a lovely neighborhood, white picket fence, all the fun things. And I started realizing that or not realizing, I started being afraid that I wasn't as good as. Again, the same feeling of childhood as I'm not good as. This was more like financially, we can't keep up with everyone else, right? On the
Mhm.
outside, we could, and we did all the things, but that fear
Mhm.
underneath all those feelings manifested. And so I really started to have these feelings of jealousy and comparison and all those things. So then that spun into a nice big happy divorce with my husband because I took out all those emotions on him, all those fears on him. You need to work harder, or I had so much pressure that I put on him that it just ended up spiraling and ended up divorced. So again, lesson learned is I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, right? And
Mhm.
I wanted to blame him. I didn't ever stop to say, "What's going on with me?" And that's where the magic happened when I finally said, "Okay, this isn't about everyone else. I can't keep blaming everyone else for things that aren't going well in my life."
Was there a particular pivotal event that made you have that realization about you had to create your own happiness? Was there something that brought you to that?
Yeah, this is the funny story. So I think it was the first week we were divorced. I had quit my job. I had left my husband. I was like, I'm starting over. I'm starting from
Mhm.
scratch. Anyway, so I was in an apartment and he was in an apartment and he had the kids. It was the first
Mhm.
night he had the kids. And I said to him, "You have to have them in bed by 9 o'clock." They were, I don't know, middle school. "You have to have them in bed by 9 o'clock." Next thing I know, I get a text from one of my daughters at 10 and I lose it because I'm like, he didn't have them in bed by 10. Pick up the
Mhm.
phone and I called him and I said, "The girls are supposed to be in bed by 10." And he said to me, "You can't control me anymore." And it was this moment where I was like so angry, like,
Mhm.
"Who are you to tell me that?" But it was the moment I was like, I can't. I have to start figuring myself out. And I will never forget as long as I live because as mad as I was, it was the most truthful someone had been with me, or I had to learn to be with myself. And I was like, wow, I have been controlling. I am controlling. And it just started this process of I need to figure out who I am. I need to figure out why I blame and why I feel the way I feel.
And I know you talk about fully owning your truth. Is that what you're talking about when you say that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. My feelings and the things that come up for me and my fears are my truth. And instead of responding from a place of fear, which usually comes out as anger or control or, unhealthy patterns, I have to stop and say, what am I feeling right now? Right? What am I doing that is pushing the blame on somebody else? And it's easy. I get in these patterns all the time. I get mad at my current husband now because of nothing. And I have to stop and say, I'm not feeling happy in my own world right now. I'm not working hard enough. I'm not doing all the things that I want to do to fulfill me. So instead of blame, now I really pull it back in and said, what's going on with me? This is about me. This is not about anybody else.
Yeah, that's great. That's so true. It's like taking that pause.
Yes.
And was it a process for you? Like you're describing it, how to sit with those difficult emotions today. How did you get to that place where, okay, I can pause, I can sit with this? Talk us through that. What does that look like?
Well, when I left my job and I was going through my divorce, I decided I want to be a life coach. My previous jobs have always been teaching or travel agency or fundraising. It had always been worth working with other people. And I was kind of that person everyone came to. I was that safe place. But I didn't feel like I was that safe place in my own body. Does that make sense? So I said,
Yes.
you know what? This is what I want to do. I love being with people. I love working with people. I love the psychology and the emotions behind people. And I'm going to take this year-long course from Martha Beck, who again is Oprah's life coach. And I remember the first day I was in the class, it was my birthday 12 years ago, which is in March. And she said, okay, day one, she's like, I want everyone to sit in a chair and put your hands on your knees. And I want you to start feeling your emotions from top to bottom. And I was like, screw this. I am going to empty the dishwasher. What are we doing this lesson? I'm like, this is not for me. I am not going to sit and be woo woo and all that stuff. So I kind of ignored it. And then as the year went on and I learned the tools to bring it in, I was like, oh, she's actually making some sense. I actually can sit back and take the time to just acknowledge myself, acknowledge my feelings. So I started off with totally like, nope, I'm not doing this. This is weird. This is woo woo. This is not me. And in time, I learned to say, okay, how am I feeling? And just sit with it for a minute. And it's scary when you're not used to sitting with it. It's really scary because you don't want to own your truth sometimes. So it just started that path of rolling into, okay, I get myself. I understand myself more.
That's great. Love that. Why do you think that midlife is often that moment when women are finally ready to face their emotions instead of avoiding them?
That's a good question. I think women at our age are done. The kids are being raised. You've powered in through your careers or whatever you're doing, and it's now being. We're just being. We're just at this space where we've done all the stuff, and now we're recognizing how we want to feel every single day, how we want to wake up, and how we want to continue to live the rest of our lives. And instead of climbing the ladder and doing all the things, now we can sit back and say, how do I want to feel every day? I want to feel really happy when I put my head on the pillow and when I wake up in the morning. And instead of allowing the drama around me, I want to create this peace inside of me. And only I get to do that.
That's great. I love that too. So, if someone listening feels stuck in their relationships or just within themselves, what's the first step that you would encourage them to take?
Well, I think the easiest, and I shouldn't say it's the easiest because it's not the easiest, is just getting curious. So let's say you're angry at the lady in the grocery store in front of you, right? She's going slowly, she's paying with coins, you're frustrated, you're not happy by it. And we want to be angry, we want to be mad, we want to be, right? Our bodies are going to react a certain way. And a
Right.
lot of times we need to pause and think, like, I'm not really mad at that lady. What am I frustrated about underneath this? What is
Mhm.
my fear? What is going on with me? And just to get really, really curious every time you have a thought or an emotion, what's underneath that? Because a lot of times we're angry up here at this level and we never stop to say, why is this? Why am I feeling this? I'll tell you a quick story, and this is kind of funny, but I think it was a couple months ago, and I was walking on the beach with my husband. I forget what happened. I think something happened with a girlfriend from home. Like she wasn't returning my calls or just something. And I was like, she doesn't care about me anymore, blah, 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 blah. And my husband was just like, yeah, that's hard or whatever. And I stopped in the middle of the beach and I start yelling. And I'm like, you don't care about me. I'm sad. I have this complete breakdown. And he's like, what is going on? And so I had to go home and I had to pick it apart. And I say, why am I yelling at my husband? And I was feeling sad about my relationship with my friend. I was feeling like, I remember at the moment, I was like, I'm not doing enough in my business. Like, I want to be doing more. I'm playing small. I want to be doing more. I didn't like who I was that moment of that day. So it wasn't about my husband. It wasn't really about my friend. I didn't feel whole. I didn't feel complete. I didn't feel like I was living to my full potential. So that is what I had to strip down. But before, I'd just be angry at somebody else, right? I'd blame somebody else. It's my friend's fault who didn't call me back. It's my husband's fault who didn't just bow down and say, oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. It was my fault. So I just think get curious about the why underneath you, under like neath the feelings you have. I think that is it's hard. But once you
Mhm.
start doing it, you realize why you feel the way you do. And the stress is often caused by ourselves and not somebody else.
Yeah. So, as you think about women in midlife, why do you think that it's often a crisis, like a divorce or empty nest, or it could be any type of crisis? Why is it that often it takes that before we decide to make changes? What's your thoughts?
I think for a lot of women, we've just had enough of feeling the way we feel. What happens at this stage of life is we're becoming a lot more maybe going back more towards authenticity, like being who you really wanted to be all along, and less of living according to how everyone else sees you or you think they see you. And I think that you hit this plateau in life where you're like, I don't really care how everyone else sees me. I care how I feel myself. And I feel like at this age, we've been through so many other things in our lives that we can stop and say, all right, this is my turn. This is my chance to feel really good in my body about myself. And who cares how somebody feels about us, or who cares what's happening in our external world? But I think it's just a time for us to slow down a little bit. And again,
Mhm.
midlife can be anywhere from 45 to 65. Is that what you consider?
Right.
So we're all
Yes.
at different phases. So the
Mhm.
empty nester, is going to have one path of, I'm lonely and I don't know what to do with myself anymore. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I love my husband or if I want to continue to be with him. And so it's just more of an awakening and awareness, noticing something doesn't feel right in our bodies. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I often refer to it as just that feeling of getting sick and tired of being sick and tired,
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
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 And doing something about it finally, right? I'm sick
Yes.
of living this way.
It's that pain of staying where you are becomes greater than the fear of doing something else, right?
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true.
You mentioned that you had your own career transformation, leaving fundraising and some things you were doing, then coming into life coaching. So that was kind of your first career transformation, as I understand it. But I think in our conversations, it sounds like you're kind of doing another transformation, like you're kind of recreating some things in your business now. Do you want to share those with us?
Sure. I will start off with just basic life coaching. I will help
Mhm.
anyone that has a problem in their lives. And that was all well and good, but I really started loving the relationship piece of it, the marriages and the mother daughter relationship and the friend relationship. And as I started learning and growing and going back for more training in the relationship arena, I'm realizing that's just what I want to do. Not that I don't want to help everyone, but I can't. And I really want to specialize in really marriages and individuals who want to get to know themselves better so that they can be in happy marriages. So I'm really pivoting to just focusing on one thing and training in just one thing and feeling like confident and knowing that I've done this for so many years. It's time to step it up a little bit. I got this.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, you're being true to yourself,
Right.
right? Like
Yes.
you learn through these different experiences and you know that this is an area that means something to you and gives you fulfillment and that's what you're doing. You're going after it. So
Yeah.
kudos.
And I,
Good
I
good
love
for
the
you.
word fulfillment when you pull that up because I think that's what everyone wants, right? Everyone in life is looking for some sort of fulfillment and what that
Yes.
is and how am I going to get that? So I love that word. That's a really powerful
Yes.
word.
Yes. And you mentioned in the conversations too that you're specifically looking for people in their marriages or relationships that want to make it work. I really love that. We all know the divorce rate is high. There's chances that you're not going to make it or more than you make it, that kind of thing, or maybe it's even, I don't know. But tell me maybe a little bit more about that focus on working it out and getting to that place with the person that you love that works for you both.
Well, I think the most important piece is to make sure both people are willing to work on the marriage. They want to stay together, but more importantly, that they're willing to work on themselves, right? They're willing to look in the mirror and say, I'm defensive, I'm controlling, I'm overpowering, I shut down. Like really look at themselves And if people aren't willing to look at themselves, it's really hard to help a relationship. So two people have to be solid in order to make the marriage solid. So I find that it's really important to find these people who they're not just going to coming to me to say they went to counseling or coaching or whatever that leads them to a divorce or leads them for an excuse to leave. I want them to come to me. They're both in it to win it. They both want to make this work. And usually what happens is a lot of, and it's often women, they've checked out. They hit a wall and they've checked out. And the men are like, wait, I'm about to lose my wife. I need to do something. And sometimes it's too late. So, what I really want to do is get these people before they go down that path. Because you've been divorced, I've been divorced, right? And we're both remarried. Second marriages, they're just as hard, right? You're learning, you're taking your old tools, you're taking your old behaviors, you're taking your old thoughts and beliefs, and now you've got a new marriage. And right, so now you've got blended families and you've got all that stuff, and it's a lot easier. I wouldn't have stayed with my first husband, love him to death, but I wouldn't have stayed with him. But I wouldn't have gotten to the place I am had I not left him. However, I want people before they have to go through that pain to figure out how to own their own truth, and so that they can be the best person they can in a relationship with a partner.
Great. That is beautiful. I want to go back to the book you wrote. So Big Girl Pants. It was quite a few years ago, right? Is there anything different you would say in that book today? Or maybe is there another book on the horizon? What does that look like for you?
I love this conversation. I think that there will be another book. And I remember writing this book. It had to have been 10 years ago. And I reread it. I put it down, I put it away, and I reread it. I don't know, it was like 6 months ago when I got this inkling of maybe I'll write another book. And I read it and I was like, this is totally not me anymore. This is not, I have come so far from when I wrote this. A lot of this was blaming my husband. A lot of this was how to find, like, put on your big girl pants and be empowered. But the things that I know now are so much greater than what I knew then. I thought when I wrote that book, I was like the guru. I knew it all. And now I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, how did I say that? I'm so much better now. So, yes, I kind of want to think about writing another book. It's in a thought process. So we'll see.
Oh, but I love that you're able to look back and say, "Hey, look how much I've grown."
Yes.
And from the beginning of our conversation, you talked about some things in childhood and how things got, and then how you changed, and then yet again, more transformation through the more recent years, and it's all just becoming a better version of you. And I know that's my goal. Like when I face challenges and hard things, I want to grow. I want to become a better version of myself. And I
Ah,
think having that willingness is, from my experience, just key to happiness. What you were talking about, being able to be happy and sit with who I am today.
I think that's so powerful. I also think a lot of people don't want to look at that. They're fine where they are. Status quo is fine for them. And that's fine. If that makes them happy, that's great. I just
Mhm,
think, and we found each other because we're both on the same path. Like, let's keep growing. Let's keep
mhm,
like empowering ourselves to do better. And so I feel like the right people, when they find us or when they find each other or when they find themselves, they want to go down that path. They want to
mhm.
say, oh my gosh, I'm doing something in my life that makes me feel really good. And so I love that we're both doing that at the same time.
Yes, me too. You mentioned that there is maybe a new program or new service that you're kicking off in your business. Tell us about that.
I am going to kick off a 6 month intensive private coaching where I'm just working with the individuals and the couples together. So for 6 months, I'm going to work with the individuals on themselves, the couples on how they work together, and just not only coach them or help them, but more advise and teach them tools. So through the Gottman Institute, I learned all these tools that are research backed that had I had these tools when I was first married, I could have made it work, or I could have tried to make it work, or I had no self awareness. I didn't know what tools I needed to use. And I remember going to therapy with my husband. And for me, it was more talk about what's bothering you and not the tools to how to make this work. And so I really want to help people not only work together, learn themselves and what they bring to the table and what baggage they bring and what emotions and what childhood behaviors they brought, but then put them together so that they're now practicing these tools with each other with the better version of themselves. So I'm really excited about this.
Oh, what a great service. What a great program. I'm interested to hear about your success with that and how that goes. When you're able to help a couple or an individual get through some of this stuff that we've talked about, and you see the growth in other people, we were talking about the growth we see in ourselves, but when you see growth in other people, how does that make you feel?
My gosh, it is the best feeling. If I get off
Mhm.
a call with a Zoom call with a couple and they start off and they're so angry and they're so mad and they're, and we step back, we use their tools, and by the end, they're touching again and they're having conversations and they're coming back to themselves. And I walk out of my office and I'm like, yes, like I love it. It makes me so, so happy because most of everyone needs some help, right? Everyone needs help in their lives, in their careers, in their relationships, and everything. So it's the most empowering thing for me. I feel complete and I feel happy and I feel fulfilled. And then I can be a better partner and a better friend and a better mom. So,
Oh, that's beautiful. And Lisa, thank you so much. You're just a beautiful soul. And I'm just so happy
oh,
that we met and that you're just part of my journey. That's
oh,
wonderful.
thank
Now, if
you.
others would want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, right now, my website, which is www.lisapanos.com, it might still be under construction. It is still under construction because I'm adding these new programs, but that's the best way to get a hold of me. And there's a contact me button on there. And I would love to hear from anyone who needs just a little boost, a little pep in their step.
All right, great. That's great. And do you do Zoom meetings and one-on-one, or what's your format?
I do Zoom meetings.
Hmm.
If they're local in Naples, Florida, I will do in person.
Hmm.
So it's just kind of depending on what the needs are, where they're located, that type of thing. I feel like
Wonderful.
Zoom a lot of times is they can do it in their living rooms. They can have those
Yes.
fights. They can be real and authentic and no one's around. I feel like that is good for them. However they want to work though, I'm here for
Okay.
them.
That's great. Well, Lisa, I wish you continued success in all that you do in this chapter. And let's just keep in touch.
We will. You're so
All
sweet. Thank
right.
you for having me on today. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I am truly grateful that you chose to listen in, and I hope that this conversation sparks something meaningful for you. Please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review. It helps other women to find us who need to hear these stories too. And if you know someone who is ready for their own comeback, share this episode with them. I'd love to connect with you beyond the podcast. Visit me at hercomebackpodcast.com. That's hercomebackpodcast.com to learn more about how we can work together. I have a gift for you. Get your free copy today of 5 Powerful Shifts to Reclaim Your Life. Remember, your comeback story is waiting to be written. The question isn't, can I transform my life? The question is, are you ready? Let's go.